Jeffrey Epstein's suicide, your experience as a prosecutor, how does this happen when he's supposed to be on suicide watch? And secondly, how do victims get justice?
Suicide.
And she got her political star, her political upstart, because she was dating this guy, Willie, can't think of his last name right now. And he was married and he was in his 60s, and Kamala Harris was just a spring chicken. And that is how she entered the political scene.
Kamala Harris, she's the original Haktua girl. That's the way she got where she is. And the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough.
What if I told you that Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, has a hidden side that could shock you? From viral footage linking her to Jeffrey Epstein to disturbing claims about her treatment of the Black community, the truth might be darker than you think.
And she got her political star, her political upstart, because she was dating this guy, Willie, can't think of his last name right now. And he was married and he was in his 60s, and Kamala Harris was just a spring chicken. And that is how she entered the political scene.
And what about her policies that have left many Black Americans feeling betrayed?
Before y'all Democrats start trying to play the race card, I want y'all to understand this. Kamala is not black. Her kids is not black. Her husband is not black. She does not come from black culture. So don't tell me I got to support Kamala Harris because she black.
Kamala Harris, the first female vice president of the United States, has always been a figure of controversy. But recent footage and revelations have taken this to a whole new level. What exactly is her connection to Jeffrey Epstein? Let's find out. The recently surfaced footage of Kamala Harris with Jeffrey Epstein has sent shockwaves through the political landscape. But what exactly were the nature and extent of their relationship? Some speculate that Harris might be among the celebrities who traveled to the infamous island. For context, nearly 200 mobile devices of people who visited Jeffrey Epstein's notorious P-File Island in the years prior to his death left an invisible trail of data pointing back to their own homes and offices. Maps of these visitations, generated by a troubled international data broker with defense industry ties, document the numerous trips of wealthy and influential individuals seemingly undeterred by Epstein's status as a convicted S offender. The data amassed by Near Intelligence, a location data broker roiled by allegations of mismanagement and fraud, reveals with high precision the residences of many guests of Little St. James, a United States Virgin Islands property, where Epstein is accused of having groomed, assaulted, and T-ficked countless women and girls. Some girls, prosecutors say, were as young as 14. The former Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands alleged that girls as young as 12 were T-ficked to Epstein by those within his elite social circle. The coordinates that Near Intelligence collected and left exposed online pinpoint locations to within a few centimeters of space. Visitors were tracked as they moved from the Ritz-Carlton on neighboring St. Thomas Island, for instance, to a specific dock at the American Yacht Harbor, a marina once co-owned by Epstein that hosts an impressive array of pleasure boats and mega yachts. The data pinpointed their movements as they were transported to Epstein's dock on Little St. James, revealing the exact routes taken to the island. The tracking continued after they arrived. From inside Epstein's enigmatic waterfront temple to the pristine beaches, pools, and cabanas scattered across his 71 acres of prime archipelagic real estate, the data compiled by Near captures the movements of scores of people who sojourned at Little St. James as early as July 2016. The recorded surveillance concludes on July 6, 2019, the day of Epstein's final arrest. 11 years earlier, the disgraced financier was sentenced to 18 months in jail after a guilty plea in 2008 for soliciting and procuring a young person engaged in escort-related stuff, securing a secret sweetheart deal to avoid any federal charges. Renewed interest in the case, notably prompted by a Miami Herald investigation, spawned new charges against Epstein, who was apprehended at New Jersey's Teterboro Airport in July 2019. A raid of Epstein's Manhattan townhouse by federal agents yielded a cache of sexual AB material, nearly 50 individually cut diamonds, and a fraudulent Saudi Arabian passport, which had expired. He reportedly died by suicide a month later while incarcerated at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, a federal detention facility that closed shortly after Epstein's death. Ghislaine Maxwell, former British socialite and an Epstein accomplice, was convicted in 2021 on 5 counts, including sexual T-fiking by force. Maxwell was arrested in New Hampshire, tracked to a $1 million home by federal agents using location data pulled from her cell phone. Little is known publicly about Epstein's activities in the decade prior to his 2019 arrest. The majority of women who came forward that year to accuse the convicted pedophile in court say they were assaulted in the 90s and early 2000s. The guests to Epstein's Islands came from across the world and from the highest ranks of society, celebrities and scientists and members of royal families, touching down in a private jet and then boarding a helicopter to the island. Its owner liked to call it Little St. Jeff. The locals called it Pedophile Island. In any case, it is important to mention that Kamala's connection to Epstein has not been confirmed. However, some other details of her career rise have been revealed which are just as shocking. A Fox Business Network guest has sparked outrage after he referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as the original Hawk Tuah girl.
Kamala Harris, she's the original Hawk Tuah girl. That's the way she got where she is, and the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough.
Alec Lace made the comments on a July 5th appearance after President Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance, but before Harris became the presumptive nominee at the top of the Democratic ticket. The podcaster was comparing Harris to a 22-year-old who garnered viral fame after describing spitting during an S-act as she was interviewed on the street.
You gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing.
Lace's comments were even too much for Fox Business host Dagan McDowell, who told him, "That was harsh." Rather than apologize for the comments, Lace then took to X, where he wrote, "Did I go too far on Fox News calling Kamala Harris the OG Hawk Tuah girl, or am I right over the target?" For context, Kamala Harris began her career in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, then became the District Attorney of San Francisco in 2003.
Many of you know, before I was elected as Vice President, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California. Before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor.
During her tenure, she championed several tough-on-crime policies that she believed would reduce crime rates and enhance public safety. However, these policies have been criticized for their disproportionate impact on Black and marginalized communities. One of the most criticized aspects of Harris's career as district attorney was her aggressive stance on truancy. Harris introduced a policy that prosecuted parents of chronically truant children, arguing that regular school attendance was crucial for a child's future success. While the intention behind the policy was to ensure children stayed in school, it resulted in punitive measures against families, many of whom were struggling with systemic issues such as poverty, racism, and lack of access to resources. Critics argue that instead of addressing the root causes of truancy, this policy further criminalized already vulnerable families. Harris also faced criticism for her support of California's three strikes law, which mandated life sentences for individuals convicted of 3 serious offenses. Critics argue that this law disproportionately affected Black and Latino communities, leading to mass incarceration and breaking up families. The perception that Harris supported such a harsh policy has lingered, fueling skepticism about her commitment to criminal justice reform. As Attorney General of California, Harris continued to implement policies that drew criticism from civil rights advocates. Her tenure from 2011 to 2017 included decisions and policies that, while intended to uphold the law, often resulted in adverse outcomes for Black communities. Despite increasing public outcry against police brutality and the need for reform, Harris was perceived as not doing enough to address these issues. She faced criticism for not supporting statewide initiatives to mandate body cameras for police officers or to appoint special prosecutors to investigate police shootings. Another controversial stance was her office's fight to preserve the state's right to use prison labor, arguing that it was necessary for maintaining the state's workforce. This stance drew significant backlash as it was seen as perpetuating a system that exploited incarcerated individuals, many of whom were Black. Critics saw this as an endorsement of modern-day slavery, further deepening distrust among those who had already suffered under the criminal justice system. The Black community has experienced systemic injustices from the police and judicial system for generations. Harris's record as a prosecutor is seen by many as part of this system, raising doubts about her ability to champion the changes needed to address these deep-seated issues. There is a significant trust deficit between the Black community and Kamala Harris due to her her prosecutorial past. Many view her policies as having contributed to the mass incarceration and criminalization of Black individuals, rather than addressing the root causes of crime such as poverty and lack of education. Kamala Harris's personal life has also been a subject of controversy. For starters, there have been claims that Harris got her start by having an affair with a married man, California politician Willie Brown.
Well, every time that someone tried to interject the truth about Kamala, which is that she slept her way to the top, it's a fact. She was with some 6-year-old man, got her start in the political career, and they would go, oh my gosh, how dare you say this? That's so sexist.
Brown, who at the time was Speaker of the California Assembly, and Harris dated when she was a prosecutor in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. The relationship began in 1994 and ended sometime the next year. According to reports, Brown was separated from his wife at the time he and Harris dated. As Speaker, Brown doled out patronage positions to political allies, including Harris, who was named to 2 board positions that paid lucrative salaries. She was making the equivalent of $130,000 a year by today's money for meeting twice a month for these medical boards, and another position for what she had 0 qualifications, Kelly noted on her SiriusXM show. He was trying to lay the road for her political career. Kelly noted that Brown admitted that he's the one who helped her win the role as DA, and she was sleeping with him. Additionally, her marriage to Douglas Emhoff, a white man, has led to discussions about her commitment to Black communities. In fact, one person commented on this, saying, Kamala Harris isn't Black, and nothing about her is Black culture. Black people have been duped again. Black women, isn't she married to a white man and white Indian kids? But a lot of Black women secretly wish they were in her position, racially ambiguous, married to a white guy, #Black vote. In any case, Kamala Harris and Douglas Emhoff's love story is one for the ages. In 2013, Kamala Harris was set up on a blind date by her friend Chrisette Hudlin. Harris shared this story in her 2019 memoir, The Truths We Hold, An American Journey. Hudlin assured Harris that Doug Emhoff, an entertainment lawyer from Los Angeles, was a perfect match. Despite being advised not to, Harris admitted in a 2021 CBS News interview that she did Google Emhoff before their first date. The initial connection began with a text from Emhoff during a basketball game. They soon planned a phone call, and the next morning, Emhoff left Harris a voicemail that was long and somewhat rambling. However, Harris was intrigued. Upon meeting, Harris found Emhoff to be genuine and unpretentious. He seemed so genuinely comfortable with himself, she wrote. It's part of why I liked him immediately. Emhoff had 2 children from his previous marriage to Kirsten Emhoff. Named Cole and Ella after jazz legends John Coltrane and Ella Fitzgerald, they were an essential part of Emhoff's life. Harris, understanding the complexities of dating as a child of divorce, decided to take things slow. In a 2019 article for LA, Harris described waiting about 2 months before meeting the children. When they finally met, the kids were welcoming, which endeared them to Harris even more. I was already hooked on Doug, but I believe it was Cole and Ella who reeled me in, she wrote. Emhoff proposed to Harris in a moment of chaos. As Harris frantically searched for missing pants before a trip to Italy, Emhoff seized the moment. Initially oblivious to his proposal, Harris only realized what was happening when Emhoff repeated, "I want to spend my life with you," and got down on one knee. Overwhelmed with emotion, Harris said yes. On August 22, 2014, Harris and Emhoff married in a small ceremony officiated by Harris's sister Maya. The couple, along with Emhoff's children, decided to forego the term stepmom, opting for Mamala instead. After Harris was elected as a California senator, the couple spent more time in Washington, D.C. Emhoff, an accomplished lawyer, began teaching at Georgetown University Law Center in January 2020. Their partnership flourished both personally and professionally, culminating in Harris's historic vice presidential win in 2021. As Harris now steps up to lead the Democrats in the race against Donald Trump, Emhoff stands by her side, potentially making history as the first gentleman of the USA. However, Harris has received little to no support from the Black community. In a 2021 interview, rapper Boozy Badazz shared his candid thoughts on Kamala Harris, whom he referred to as Camilla. His remarks were a mix of admiration and skepticism, reflecting his complex view on her role as vice president. Boozy began by expressing his unconventional pronunciation of Harris's name.
I think it's pronounced Kamala Harris.
Well, I call her Camilla.
Camilla?
Yeah.
You just gonna run with that?
Yeah, when I call somebody something, that's what makes me special.
Dr. Umar Johnson, a well-known psychologist and social critic, is also among those who have been vocal about his disapproval of Kamala Harris running for president. In a recent interview, he articulated his concerns and criticisms of her political record and stance on racial issues, drawing parallels to former President Barack Obama.
Just like Barack Obama, they do what they need to do to stay close to the white power structure.
He accused Harris of having a track record of incarcerating black people, stating she made a career locking up black people. He also criticized her for downplaying the reality of racism in America. This is the same woman who went on international television and said America is not a racist country, Johnson emphasized, highlighting the dissonance between her statement and the experiences of many black Americans.
You want me to go vote for a so-called black woman who went on international television and told the world that America is not a racist country?
One of Johnson's main issues with Harris is her perceived lack of identification with the black community. He argued that her mixed-race heritage is not the problem. Rather, it is her failure to advocate for black people. My issue ain't her being mixed race. My issue with her is not identifying with her people, he explained. Johnson recounted an interview where Harris allegedly stated that laws specifically benefiting black people could not be passed, questioning why similar laws were enacted for other minority groups. Johnson pointed out what he sees as inconsistencies in Harris's policy positions, particularly her support for legislation benefiting specific ethnic and social groups. He questioned, if the Democratic Party can't do anything just for black people, why did y'all pass a law only for Asians, only for Native Americans, only for transgenders, only for LGBTQ, only for immigrants? Johnson argued that these actions contradict Harris's claims and demonstrate a lack of commitment to the black community. Comedian Katt, another black celebrity hesitant to endorse Kamala Harris, has voiced his skepticism in several routines. Over the years, Williams has frequently referenced the vice president, often expressing doubts about her authenticity as a black woman.
And that's how you can tell the vice president is a real black woman. You don't see her nowhere. She ain't at the mall, at the club, nothing. She in her room at the White House.
When Kamala Harris was sworn in as Vice President of the United States on January 20th, 2021, it was a momentous occasion that marked a series of historic firsts. Harris made history by becoming the first woman ever to hold the second highest office in the country. Moreover, as the daughter of Jamaican and Indian immigrants, she also became the first black and first South Asian American to occupy this significant position. Harris's ascent to the vice presidency was a groundbreaking achievement, symbolizing progress and the breaking of long-standing barriers in American politics. Her role not only represented a milestone for women, but also for the diverse communities she embodies, reflecting a broader shift towards inclusivity and representation in the highest echelons of government. Now, with President Joe Biden's endorsement for the 2024 Democratic nomination, following his decision to drop out of the presidential race on July 21st, 2024, Harris is again positioned to make history. She stands to become the first Black and Asian American woman ever to lead a major party ticket in a presidential election. This potential achievement underscores her significant role in the current political landscape. Despite these historic accomplishments, a considerable portion of the African American community has been reluctant to fully acknowledge her as one of their own. This skepticism highlights ongoing debates about her connection to and representation within the Black community. However, Harris has been very vocal about her identity as a member of the African American community. During a 2019 appearance on The Breakfast Club, co-host Charlemagne the God asked Harris about claims that she was not African American simply because her parents were immigrants. "So I was born in Oakland and raised in the United States except for the years that I was in high school in Montreal, Canada," Harris replied. And look, this is the same thing they did to Barack Obama. This is not new to us. And so, I think that we know what they are trying to do. As for being Black, she put it plainly. "I'm Black, and I'm proud of being Black. I was born Black. I will die Black, and I'm not going to make excuses for anybody because they don't understand." The skepticism surrounding Kamala Harris's authenticity among some in the Black community stems from her frequent self-revelations, which some interpret as suggesting she does not fully belong. One notable instance occurred during a morning radio show interview where Harris candidly discussed her stance on MJ legalization. In this conversation, she shared that she had used marijuana during her college years, a revelation that many found surprising given her position. Her discussion on the topic was marked by a lighthearted tone and laughter. She took the opportunity to make a playful reference to former President Bill Clinton's well-known statement during his presidential campaign. Clinton had claimed he had smoked MJ while at Oxford, but had not inhaled, a statement widely scrutinized and ridiculed. Harris's joke about Clinton's claim was intended to add humor to the discussion, but it also highlighted a broader issue. By openly discussing her past MJ use and using humor to navigate her public image, Harris's approach may be perceived by some as distancing herself from the traditional experiences and narratives associated with the Black community. This has contributed to ongoing debates about her authenticity and connection to the African American experience.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like in
And
college,
I inhaled. I did inhale. It was a long time ago.
However, there was one part of that interview and her MJ escapades that seemed to convince people she might not be a truth-sayer. During the interview, after Harris admitted to smoking in college, she also said she listened to Snoop Dogg and Tupac Shakur while getting high.
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac.
Here's the problem. Harris graduated from Howard in 1986 and law school in 1989. Snoop Dogg, then known as Snoop Doggy Dogg, didn't get started until 1992, and Tupac's career did not take off until the early 1990s, when he debuted in Digital Underground's Same Song from the soundtrack to the 1991 film Nothing But Trouble.
What Kamala Harris did was a little bit more than irritating, right? Because remember, this is the same woman who prosecuted tens of thousands of Black people for smoking marijuana. So
either Harris was baked enough to time travel, or she hit the bong after being in school. Not cool for a candidate whose slogan is speaking truth, demanding justice. Most likely, many believe she's just trying to curate a playlist that sends the right message, but lying for it is where people have a problem. Over the past couple of days, the fate of Americans has changed, with people having mixed views about the updates. Well, just like many of the other surprises that have come with this year, the update about Kamala Harris may be the latest addition. Granted, almost every political candidate with aspirations to the most powerful positions in the country probably has their fair share of controversies in the media. I mean, Donald Trump, the presidential candidate, is no stranger to the tabloids. However, while Trump seems to have embraced his controversial nature, Katt Williams seems to believe Kamala Harris has dedicated an unusual amount of resources into hiding that part of her life, and to the comic, that might be a bad omen. Nonetheless, there's still a staggering amount of information available about Harris that aligns with Katt's views of her. In case you're not aware, Vice President Kamala Harris just inherited President Joe Biden's $96 million campaign war chest.
We do have the first public statement from Vice President Kamala Harris in the aftermath of President Biden dropping out of the 2024 race. She says that she was honored to have received President Biden's endorsement.
The Biden-Harris campaign on Sunday formally amended filings with the Federal Election Commission to rename its principal committee and declare Kamala Harris a candidate for president. The move means that should she remain on the ticket for the general election, according to the Campaign Legal Center, Harris could assume control of the Biden-Harris campaign account, which, again, had nearly $96 million cash in hand at the end of June. Specifically because Biden and Harris share a campaign committee, the vice president and her running mate can continue using the campaign's existing funds for the general election if she is on the Democratic ticket as either the presidential or vice presidential nominee. Trevor Potter, founder and president of Campaign Legal Center, said in a statement, "The reports came after U.S. President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 presidential race, which left Democrats grappling with unanswered questions about the way forward, less than 4 months before Election Day." Biden stepped aside after weeks of pressure from fellow Democrats following a disastrous debate performance against former President Donald Trump in June. However, a significant part of the African American community has refused to recognize her standing as one of them.
Kamala has played a part, just like Joe Biden, in persecuting and putting African American people in jail by the droves. The only reason why Kamala is a vice president in the first place is because she's Black. It is not because she is qualified. It is not because she is competent. It is because she's black. Somebody is willing to put someone in a seat for their color, even when they're not qualified to do a favor for you.
Another black voter said,
Before y'all Democrats start trying to play the race card, I want y'all to understand this. Kamala is not black. Her kids is not black. Her husband is not black. She does not come from black culture. So don't tell me I got to support Kamala Harris because she black.
all in all, Kamala Harris remains a polarizing figure. As she continues to campaign for presidency, only time will tell if Harris can bridge the gap and unite the community. One thing is certain, the conversations and debates about her impact are far from over. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.